What is up, everybody? Crystal Podcast episode 86. Today, you're going to be getting parenting advice from a man whose own daughter told him, "You suck." Now, let's keep this in mind here. I got a 3-year-old, right? She picks stuff up, right? More is caught than taught, right? Isn't that a saying, what they say about parenting? So, what I think's going on here, we're playing some stuff inside. We're building a fort. We're building a cool little house. We got pillows, blankets, all the stuff. Anything that we could find in the living room, we're using to build a fort, right? So, that being said, one of these moments, sorry, I got a drink there. One of these moments, she closes the door. She said, "Daddy, I built your house." I'm like, "Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you, Emmy. You're just a wonderful little girl." She opens the door and says, "You suck," and like giggles and goes away. And we're like, "Whoa, what's going on here? Where did you hear that?" We try to get to the bottom of where she heard it, but really, that doesn't matter. We just wanted to kind of reiterate the point that those are not really kind words, and we want to be kind to everybody. We don't want to be mean. How, the whole, like, how would you feel, if you hurt somebody's feelings? That's not a good thing. Or how would you feel if somebody tried to hurt your feelings intentionally? Another thing that's not good. Those words you use are not nice. They're going to hurt somebody's feelings, yada, yada, yada. We say things like that, like, Emmy, we would have to maybe remove you and go put you in your room for a little bit and close the door. She goes, "Well, then I'll open the door and say, 'You suck again,'" and like laugh. So she was being a little bit of a troublemaker, right? She wasn't saying it maliciously because she didn't understand the intent of it. She was trying, it was basically practice. It was imitating what she saw somebody else do. Who did she see do that? I don't really know. I don't think it was from preschool. I think it was from her coming in the gym, all right? So remember that saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch? These unintended consequences. I didn't really think about her coming to hang out with middle school and high school age kids. She might pick up on some of these not so kind things. My thought on it is that she was laughing about it. So whatever context it was used, that she saw it was in a joking manner. Maybe somebody threw a snowball at somebody. That person said, "Oh, you suck," and threw one back. Anyway, no clue, right? But we had to kind of squash that and be like, those words are not kind. We had to tell her that this is not a joke. This is not a thing. And she kept going with it, thinking it was funny because she saw the reaction that she got from her parents. So we squashed it, right? And it's been kind of good since that point, right? And I was talking to her preschool teacher yesterday about it. And about other things, just in general, because Emmy switched to 5 days, which is what we're going to get into. And, at the end of the day, it's the people that you're the closest with that is going to get the brunt of your worst emotions, say, as a young kid. So she's perfect in school. She doesn't complain about anything, but then we'll have these emotional moments when she gets home. All of this stimulus is coming in her mind. She doesn't act out in school, so she acts out when she gets home, and she might not be kind to her parents all the time, right? She's great. But I'm just saying, these are the things that happen. These are the things that you don't really think about. Like, oh, yeah, maybe we'll go 5 days to school, right? We don't think about the unintended consequence, which is her acting out when she gets home more and more, all right? These are things you don't think about. On the flip side of that, we see this incredible kindness. We have a cat inside that 2 nights ago now, she just started stumbling up the steps and was going sideways into the wall, and I was like, oh, man, her one back leg must be hurt. So I go upstairs to check on her. She's laying in the bed. She's lounging. I'm like, you know what? If she is hurting, I'm going to let her be. The next morning, or actually that night then, I hear some weird noises. I'm like, man, is that a mouse on the wall? It sounds different. I don't know what the heck's going on. We live in a farmhouse, all right? We have mice, all right? So I hear that at nighttime. I go back to sleep. I wake up. Our girl Smudgy's coming down the steps, and it sounds weird again. It's like, and then she comes and sits under the heater. She makes a meow sound that I never heard before. And then she goes to go back up the steps, and I see her. She's just all over the place. And then she just hides out in Emmy's room, and her head is like moving around. Like she's got like a tick to it. Her eyes are like not there. And we're like, what the heck is going on? So we take her to the vet. And there's always one thing here, and I'll share another story too that has a sadder ending to it. It's like these kids understand when something's going on. That whole "you suck" thing, she kept kind of going along with it because she knew it was aggravating her parents. When we had an animal that we needed to take care of yesterday and get to the vet, we're like, dude, cut it. We need you to do this. We're taking you to school. We're taking Smudgy to the vet, blah, 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 blah. And she got it. And it reminded me of a story where she was very young, and we had a horse named Hershey, right? And Hershey was like 37, 38 at the time. Emmy rode him on a Sunday. Say on Tuesday, she woke up from a nap. We go outside to get him. I see Hirschman laying down on the ground in a spot that he wouldn't be laying in. He was a black horse, and he was just getting hit by the sun hard. And this might have been April. It wasn't summertime, but it was one of those days that was like hot. The sun was cooking. I'm like, Maurice, you got to go check on him. And she does, and something's wrong with his leg. He's not getting up. And we're like, Emmy, girl, we need you to stand in the barn. Mommy and Daddy are going to try to go help Hershey. Hershey's stuck. We thought he was stuck in a little swale, so we tried to get him up, doesn't work. The vet comes out, all three of us are trying to get him on his feet. The vet's looking around, he's like, what is going on, what is going on? He figures out, man, there's gotta be a break in here. Finds the break in his leg, it's up high in the hip. Hershey Man only has a few hours before that we have to put him down because these leg injuries are catastrophic. There's so much weight that the horse has in his upper body and the legs have to support it. You know, we tried a few years ago, we had a horse named Jameson who was in good spirits, but he had an injured leg. We kept Jameson around, we fed him, but it got to the point that he just started atrophying. And then we're like, you know what? He's not happy anymore. You know, he used to be happy, he'd come over and say hello. He's not there. I think it's time for him to move on, right? Emmy experienced something like that with Hershey. She experienced loss. She had some peppermints in his hand, and we're like, Emmy, please hold these peppermints. We'll call you out, and you can give her some peppermints. And she got to pet him, give him some peppermints. Did she know what was going on? Probably not. She was like 2, right? All she did was sit on Hershey's back. Hershey would be free on our property. He'd be fenced in. But he was such a good horse that Emmy would go out with Marisa, and Hershey would just be roaming there, and he would come over, and Emmy would give him hay and all this other stuff. It was beautiful, and it was sweet, right? She learned that, you know, we saw in her, you know, if you tell a kid to do something, they have the capabilities of doing it. She understood that her parents were being serious. It's like these kids have these special little talents, and you just have to kind of be open to these talents, you know? They understand stuff. You just have to be open to it. And, you know, it reminds me of this quote here that I like that applies to being a parent, is that this is from a man that I'll butcher his name, Krishnamurti, we'll go with. Just because the window is open, there's no guarantee the breeze will blow in. However, if the window remains shut, there's no possibility the breeze will enter. As a parent, we need to keep our windows open. You know, new information, new input's gonna be coming in, and we have to be open to that, right? We have to make sure that our kids are open to that too, and we don't wanna shut them off to opportunities. We don't wanna be like, no, don't do that. No, don't explore this. No, you can't do that. We gotta let them explore things. We gotta let their windows be open. And if their windows are open, the breeze will come in and they'll be able to kind of pick up new things and figure out what's right and figure out what's wrong in life. You know, the same psychologist I spoke of earlier, Jordan Peterson, talks about kids aren't playing like they used to. And because of that, some of the stuff that they would usually act out at a younger age, whether it's dressing up in different outfits, whether it's acting in a certain way, stuff that they would have worked out at a young age, they're not doing now. Now they're starting to act out these things at age 7, 10, 15, right? You know, they're dressing up as a superhero, and while they're, you know, I'm not going to get into the details, but you get the drift, right? Stuff that they used to act out at a young age is now acting out at an older age, right? So then that kind of trickles its way up. Whereas kids, after they got out of high school, say, they were mature enough to maybe go get a job or start a family in their 20s or go to college. Now, those same kids that are out of high school, they're at a maturity level, say, of a 15-year-old, right? As opposed to being that 18-year-old. So that when they're 19, they're still not quite emotionally ready for that stuff. And I think that started some of the stuff that has happened generationally, right? So we got to be mindful of that. I think we got to keep the door open, the window open, so that breeze could come in, right? So we got to let those kids explore at whatever age they want to explore. Don't shut their window, guys and girls, right? As a parent, keep that door open, keep that window open, right? Now I was getting to that smudgy story, and I don't know what the story is, but all I know is, you know, that same girl that told her dad, you suck, is spending nights rubbing this cat and trying to spend some time to heal her, right? She wants to do everything that she can to help. And animals teach that, right? So as a parent, you're like, what are the pros and cons? There's going to be unintended consequences. There's going to be consequences, say, of not having a dog or a cat, and there's going to be unintended consequences of not having that animal. And then the inverse of that is true, and you got to play that out. For me personally, if I was a single man and I met somebody that had the same mindset of me when I was like 25, that had no interest in animals, I never had an animal, right? Now I'm living at a farm where we got 2 dogs, 2 cats, chickens, horses, all that stuff, right? So if I would have met somebody that had that same mindset, I would still be in that mindset. Now my daughter wouldn't have been exposed to that. But instead I met Marisa, somebody that had the total opposite viewpoint on animals, and I'm grateful for that because not only did she introduce me to the joys of that, but we're both able to introduce that to our daughter, and our daughter's learning lessons that would be hard to teach otherwise, right? You know, they need stories, they need a narrative, stuff like that, and experiencing some of this stuff, you know. Emmy was sick when she was younger. She had to be in the hospital for 5 days. Now she knows that, like, hey, Smudgy's sick. She needs time. She needs rest. We have to get her the medicine that she needs to feel better. The same with the horses. The horse needs rest. You know, the horse needs this. The horse needs that. She unfortunately has learned a terrible lesson losing Hershey, right? We also lost another pony, Star, who was not on our property. A friend was another person was leasing that horse. That horse got deathly ill, did not survive. She's experienced loss at a young age, and that type of stuff is hard to explain to a young kid. She sees pictures of my brother who died 8 or 9 years ago now, at her grandparents' house. She wants to know about Uncle Ryan. And we just say that Uncle Ryan is there with her. Uncle Ryan's with Star, right? Uncle Ryan is always kind of in your heart, and Uncle Ryan is always in our minds. The same with her horses, the same with anything else that happens in life. That stuff doesn't go anywhere. Just because physically they're not there, it doesn't mean that they're just totally eliminated from the world, right? We still have the stories, and I share stories with her about Uncle Ryan. She'll never meet the man, right? The man's been gone for 8 years. She knows who he is, and she knows about him. Is this the right way to do things? I don't know. But I didn't want to lie. I didn't want to set the stage of something. I didn't want to lie. I didn't want to make up stories, right? Stories are what kind of create the narratives that kind of get us through life. At first, we play, we imitate, whatever we do there, we act out. And then that stuff becomes a little bit of a story, right? Whether or not it's good or bad, then that story can be told, to future people. And over time, then that kind of becomes just the best way that she learns. I kind of lost my train of thought where I was going there. Sorry if that got a little clunky. But anyway, we need these stories. We need to share stories, and it's just the way that people have been learning, forever, throughout the course of man, right? As long as man's been alive and women's been alive, there's been stories being told, right? So we have to have stories, and we got to be able to tell them stories. Because our goal here is to prepare our kid for the world, period. We're going to have to cut them loose one day, which stinks, right? But we want them to be strong enough, we want to be able to cut them loose so that they're strong enough that we know that they're going to be able to handle the world. We're going to worry as parents, but we don't want to worry because we didn't prepare them for the world. Does that make sense? Like, we want them to, we need to prepare them in a way so that when we do cut them loose, we're confident in the job that we did. And you get these reminders every so often, had a preschool moment, there's a kid that was pushing, pulling, whatever, and we're like, hey, if that ever happens to you, like, she learned about Martin Luther King, and what they taught was upstander and bystander. The bystander just watches things go. The upstander will go and try to resolve the problem. So that led into this conversation. Like, if somebody does something to you that you don't like, that's your body. They're not allowed to do that, right? They're not allowed to push your body if you don't want them to touch your body and all that stuff, right? And we told her to say, please don't do that. We want her to be strong in her way, because I think some people that are of that bully mindset, they have a sixth sense almost to find that weak individual, and we're trying not to have that in our child. So we tell her, hey, if somebody's doing something to you, you don't want them to do that to you, right? And her teacher came out last week and was like, oh, Emmy was so proud. She used her words and she resolved a problem outside. And we're like, oh, Emmy, what happened? And she told us a story about a kid pushing her twice, and she said, excuse me, please don't push me. And then I said, well, what happened after that? He stopped. And I'm glad that he stopped, because that allowed her to have that lesson of seeing that if you use your words and if you tell somebody to stop doing it and you're strong in your convictions, then that person might back down, right? And we're trying to foster that at this age now for the rest of her life, because once your kids start going to school, they're going to be experiencing stuff like that. Kids are going to be acting out in ways, some might be a little bit emotionally immature, and they might not know, her teacher said there was a kid that showed love and anger in the same way. It was always acting out with his hands like, and kids didn't know how to respond to that. Whether it was throwing his hands up to like give somebody a hug, and it was an aggressive hug, or I'm gonna try to tackle you to the ground. He was having a hard time navigating that, right? That's gonna happen. So you gotta get your kids prepared for that stuff. We're preparing them young. We want her to be a tough, strong little girl. And how are we doing that? Who knows? We're just trying to do the right things in the right moment all the time. Now, we talked about school. We just switched to 5 days, and I already talked about acting out. We always have these decisions as parents, right? How do you know when's the right time? You don't. So last year we did preschool for 3 days as a 3-year-old. This year we started with 3 days again. She's still 3. She's going to be 4 in 2 weeks. We decided that she's doing really well, but Tuesdays and Thursdays when she's home, she's having a hard time. She wants to watch TV. She's fighting. She's giving her parents a hard time. And we're like, maybe we should try 5 days to try to give her a little bit of a routine. She's going to go to school for 5 hours. She's learning stuff there that we would not teach her, right? She's practicing all kinds of stuff. She's feeling different textures of things. They're cooking things. They're making things, right? It's not necessarily cooking food. They're making Play-Doh. They made coconut oil, hand scrub, stuff like that, right? Then the other days they have like a Spanish theme class. It's like, in theory, we want to be doing that, but we're just not doing it. We're not finding the time for that stuff. She'll cook with her mom. The Spanish stuff's not happening. Phys ed, she'll work out with us, right? But she's not getting that instruction from an outside source, right? Which is Coach Dylan is what she calls him. So they got Coach Dylan doing gym class. She's at the library. She's bringing 2 books home every week. Friday they're doing music stuff. It's like, this is great. She's learning a lot of stuff, right? But At what cost? The cost is kind of to us as a parent. We're getting less time with her, and we started thinking now if she were to go to whenever she goes to full-time school, she's going to be gone from say 8 to 3, right? And then she goes to bed at 7:30. That's a 4-hour window, 4.5-hour window there. How are we going to spend? We got to spend time with her, right? Our time spent with her is going to start to dwindle, and she's going to be spending more time with her peers, right? So it's all that stuff that you do at a young age is going to matter now, because you don't want to wait till 3 or 4 to kind of correct something. You want to start planting those seeds at, age 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You want her to be confident in herself. You want her to be able to do the right things, so that when she does get to that, you could kind of trust that framework that you set for her, right? I hear things about a kid that's violent at age 4. If they're kind of doing these antisocial violent behaviors at that age, they have a greater tendency to show that into their 20s until they hit that age of about 28 where they're like fully mature. So you have to think, if you don't correct something at the age of 4 or 5 and try to steer them on the right path, whether it's seeking out a therapist or doing it yourself or finding the right school environment for them, if you don't fix it there, they might have another 23 to 25 years of acting in a way that is just antisocial and not productive, and maybe criminal in some states, right? In some sense, where those kids that are criminals in their 20s, they've been able to study and find some tendencies that they've had this antisocial behavior stemming from things that happened in early childhood. So everything that we do now, guys, matters. Guys and girls, right? Everything that we do matters. We talked about the unintended consequences of going to school, learning things from their peers. We have to prepare them for that, right? We have to prepare them, tell them what's right and wrong. As a parent, it's our job to serve them, not us, right? What's best for her? She's going to school for 5 hours. She's a quiet girl at times at home. Social settings, she's a little quiet, but we want her, we have to expose her to these pro-social environments, and that's kind of what school is providing. So that if she does want to have those introverted moments at home, she could have them. We don't want to foster the introverted moments, because then we might not be able to get her to be, we're going to have a tougher battle doing the social stuff if we already planted the introvert seed, that antisocial behavior. I hope that makes sense a little bit. So we're trying to introduce her to do some pro-social things. She's in school, she's learning all these things, these wonderful things. She has great teachers. There's 15 or 16 other kids in there. We're encouraging, her best friend's in there, so she spends a lot of time with him. But we're encouraging her to play with others, to the point that she came out yesterday. It was like, Daddy, guess what? I played with all my friends today. And the teacher's like, she was awesome on the playground. She played with a whole variety of kids, not just, she has her best friend there Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then Tuesday, Thursday, she has her other little buddy there that for the first 2 weeks of 5 days, she's been hanging with him, right? But now she's starting to branch out a little bit more, and that's all we're doing. We're just trying to plant the seeds. We're trying to nudge her. We're trying to influence her to be a little bit more social, play with more friends. I'm like, Emmy, once you make these new friends, you could introduce these friends to your other friends who might be a little bit quiet and shy. So we're trying to play that game a little bit. She likes to be the helper, so we're trying to kind of foster her helper gene that she has into exploring more social interactions, I guess, right? And honestly, at the end of the day, it's about her happiness. As long as she's enjoying it and she's happy, then we're gonna be happy campers with it. Now moving on, we talked about we both kind of work from home, Marisa and I have a gym out here in our barn, which is where I'm sitting right now. And she comes out with me, and she, I let her be a part of that, right? But got to understand that there's a certain time and a place for everything. And I've been following Benjamin Franklin's 13 Necessary Virtues as my New Year's resolution. And one of his virtues is order, right? Let all your things have their places. Let each part of your business have its time. You want to be present with her. And when she's out here with me, I'm not always present. And it's hard for her sometimes. She's like, Dad. And I'm spotting somebody doing a big lift. And, we have to figure out if she's going to be out here with me, I can't have it at the expense of somebody getting injured, right? So everything has their place in order. And we're trying to teach her that. And if she's not able to understand that, then we're going to have to remove her from that. Also, on my level here, I don't want to be present. I don't want to be texting and scheduling in the kitchen while we're all supposed to be hanging out. Everything needs to have its place. It needs to have their order. I don't want to be like that junkyard dog where if she gets close to me and I'm doing some work or writing or something like that, that I just start barking at her and tell her to get out of here. I can't, in good conscience, do that to her at this moment. I have to separate myself or find that time. If she's at work, and Tuesday mornings, if I have 2 hours to write and do computer work, that's when I'm doing it right now. And eventually that's going to expand, but that's just the way it is right now. And it's so hard to run a business when you have a young kid. My business is totally taking a hit because of it. Everything is fine, but If I just had a little bit of more time every day to do a little bit more, things would be much better. But they're not, because I have a wonderful little girl and I'm choosing to spend time with her. I'm not separating myself from 9 to 5 and saying, see you later. I'm trying to be as present as possible, and I think that's important. You want to be the influencers in your kid's life, as much as you can. And the best way to do that is to be present. And by being present is actually physically and mentally being present. It's not being preoccupied with the other stuff that goes on in the house, right? If they say, Dad, answer them and be there. Put the phone down for a little bit, put the iPad down, turn the music off, whatever you're doing, right? Stop the dishes for a second and just talk to your kid. That's something that I try to do and try to be as a part of, right? As much as possible. The other aspect of it that I think we try to incorporate and that I would recommend everybody is that concept of play. Everything should be playful in manner. I got burned last week. Not burned, but I wanted to get inside, man. We just worked. I have to get Emmy ready for bed. It's 5:15. We got to eat dinner, shower, get ready for bed. She wants to play outside in the rain. Snow piles are still there. It's icy out. I let her play for 20 minutes, all right? I would have been a hypocrite if I would have been like, hey, we have to go inside. You're not allowed to play. You're not allowed to do this. I didn't want to be a hypocrite, so we went out. I put my hood up, and I got soaking wet, and I let her explore and have fun. And she's going to remember that night more than if I would have just, squashed it and acted like, I was a tyrant. So we got to let them play and explore. The same with physical activity. You need to have we need to encourage kids to be physically active. The obesity trends I've discussed previously already, I'm not going to get back into it, other than the fact that they are rising at an incredibly alarming rate. Obese kids are going to become obese adults. Obese adults are going to cost everybody in the long run. These pandemics are going to be more costly. The stronger that we can become as an individual, the stronger kids become stronger adults. Stronger adults are going to be able to fight illness, disease, and all that other stuff better than weaker adults, okay? So we want to try to foster that and create that at a young age. The best way to do that is we have to show them. We have to talk the talk and we got to walk the walk. We can't be the overweight coach that's telling the kid, hey, why aren't you running at home? Meanwhile, you got a huge belly and you're drinking a soda. You don't want to be that person, right? Show them the path. Show them that it is possible. How is it possible? Because I'm doing it. I did it, and I'm doing it still today. So you have to show them the way. Physical activity does great things for the brain. It opens the mind up to learn more, to expand, and to insert more knowledge, more experiences into that brain. Life is about experiences, and it's not these constrained things where it's like, you're going to learn the alphabet, and I'm going to lock you in a room, and you're going to do your alphabet and this and that. Introducing numbers and letters in different ways, and eventually, instead of rushing to get them to learn at age 4, if you let them explore it a little bit more naturally and they pick it up at age 5 or 6, that's fine. That's not going to matter at age 15. But what is going to matter is that you let them explore things on their own in an unconstrained environment, right? There's going to be more on this talk later. I'm just starting to dive into this whole topic, but you got to let these kids explore. You got to let them play sports. You got to let them try different clubs. If they want to go to dance, you let them go to dance. If they want to come to the gym and play, let them come to the gym and play. If they want to throw chalk around, that's just what's going to happen, all right? There's obviously rules. We don't want anybody to get hurt, but you got to let them explore and play. Physical activity is going to create a kid that has high self-esteem, high self-efficacy, high self-perception. These are 3 things that you want. Remember that bully I talked about earlier that preys on weak kids? High self-esteem, high self-perception, high self-efficacy, that means you're a strong individual. You don't view yourself as a weak person who blames the world for what's going on to them. They try to navigate that themselves and figure out a way to improve their lot, okay? That's what you want to foster in your kids. And lastly, when we're talking about sports here, this is another topic that we could go on forever. And I'm not gonna, because I don't want to be super critical of parents, because it's freaking hard to be a parent, right? If you got a kid playing sports, you look about what the high school, what the college coaches, what the pro coaches are saying. It always comes back to attitude and effort. Those that survive, those that last the longest, have good attitudes and they show great effort. Natural talent, natural skill, if you reward that, and if you praise kids for having talent, it's going to come back and bite you in the butt eventually. But if you praise kids for their attitude and you praise kids for their effort, you're going to be better for it. And our behavior as parents, there's this background noise, right? You might not be yelling at your kid, but if you're yelling at your spouse or significant other, they hear that background noise and it affects them emotionally. The same at sporting events. If they hear you yelling at the refs, all that background noise is going to affect who they are, right? In a negative way. And you don't want that. And you're also going to show them that that's how you can talk to people. Talking down, being mean, all that other crap, right? That's not the way to do it, man. Let the kids play. Keep your mouth shut. Praise attitude. Praise effort. Wins and losses are going to come. all right? The wins are going to come. If you keep working and you keep getting better, you're going to improve and you're going to start winning, right? But it might take time. And physical training, sports, all of this other stuff teaches them that. Letting them explore teaches that, okay? Letting them figure things out on their own, figure out how to climb that snow pile, that feels good. So next time they're going to be a little bit better out of it. But if I stop them or if I help them, they never learn the problem-solving lesson there, and then it might take a little bit of physical work and a little bit of mind work to get up there, but I'm going to do it, and I figured it out on my own, so that tells me I can do it again down the road. That's what we need to foster. That's what we need to develop, all right? Remember, I'm just a guy, right? I read. I'm a parent of one kid. I work with parents. I've been around youth sports for a couple decades. I'm only talking about what I observe, right? I'm not perfect in any of this regard. I'm just sharing stories from a dad who sucks, according to their kid, all right? Hope you guys like this one. If you have any other questions or comments, please, we're on YouTube, Apple, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher. I mean, the podcast is out there. Please like and share it. I'm trying to blow this thing up. You know what I'm saying? Share it with your friends. Instagram, Cornerstone Fitness, _ Cornerstone Fitness. That's the name of this wonderful gym. And Chris Flick on Facebook, man. Cornerstone Fitness also on Facebook, guys. Find us, like us, comment, give me some love, give me some feedback. Peace, everybody.